I cussed at my teachers. I fought a lot. I was a bully.
Teachers need to know that most children who are in foster care or out-of-home care have never had a childhood.
We had a couple of children whose, in the middle of the night, father had come home from work and shot the mother. And they were taken in the middle of the night.
And my teachers would, send me to the office over and over and over again. Never ask what was wrong.
We live in a time where public education actually understands its mission to be that of teaching all children, which means that we actually have to provide ways by which all children both get to school and have a very successful school experience. And to the degree that there are teachers or principals and school personnel who view their role as actually creating those outreach pathways of being able to make sure that they actually touch the lives of each one of their children, regardless of what condition that life may be in.
Chances are you will have the opportunity to touch the life of a child who's not living with his parents. In the United States today, 500,000 children have been removed from their homes and are living with foster families and group homes or with relatives. Your school needs a plan to help them learn.
Age 11, I moved into the Eliason's house. I stayed with them for 5 years, moved out of their home, moved in with another family, I don't even remember their names, in Edmonds. I stayed there for a little bit. Then I moved to Orcas Island for the summer.
Annie Nominick lived in 7 different homes in 7 years and switched schools each time. Researchers have found that children regress academically 4 to 6 months with every school move.
Quite often, the placements are changed not because of the kids, but because some issues with the state or issues with the foster parents. And the kids internalize this and think, my parents didn't want me, then those people didn't want me, now these people don't want me. I must be a bad person. There must be something wrong with me. And then I get in trouble at school, and then I go from school to school. There's something wrong with me.
We see a lot of kids who do not sleep well, who have a very, very difficult time getting to sleep, let alone staying asleep, and then waking up in the morning. So I think some sleep problems are pretty common amongst our kids, and I guess that goes back to having worries and concerns and having losses. We have kids that are grieving the loss of not living with a birth family. Maybe that parent the loss is the death of that parent due to drugs and alcohol. The loss could be due to the unknown, not even knowing where that parent is, because maybe they are homeless, and maybe they have addiction issues that haven't been resolved, and they're now homeless, and they worry about where they're at. Will they one day find out that that parent has died? And also, they're worried about the health, for example, if they're with the grandparents, whether or not they're going to be able to maintain their health to take care of them, or will they lose them as well? So they take all of that to school with them. So then the expectation is to be able to sit down, focus, get to your schoolwork. It's a tough combination for a child.
So 11 through 13, I started getting really rambunctious and a mouth. I argued a lot with my teachers. I cussed at my teachers. I fought a lot. I was a bully. I didn't really care about anyone's feelings, and my teachers would, send me to the office over and over and over again. Never ask what was wrong.
I think it makes sense to find out if a child is in foster care or in relative care, for example. Only to the extent of gathering and getting information about the child. The concern is what happens with that information, and being real clear about hoping that it doesn't stereotype a child or put them in a particular box, that it does mean that they're inquiring more about how to help the child.
Carolyn Mendoza is a foster parent. She and her husband have adopted 8 children with special medical needs.
I had a child. He had been in numerous placements before us. When we got him, he was 4. We were his 14th placement. And he was beginning to act out. So I would constantly get calls by this teacher, constantly. And she ended up telling me that he was going to end up in prison. She thought he was going to murder somebody. Now, the child is only 6 years old. In her opinion, it was a done deal. There was no redemption there. So it was very, very upsetting. She didn't want him in her class, and she let him know that.
Teachers need to know that most children who are in foster care or out-of-home care have never had a childhood. That during that time that they were born, right up until the time they were removed from their home situation, their childhood was probably one of the most disruptive parts of their life. They did not have stimulation regarding language development. They did not have social activities that would allow them to really develop social skills that the most youth arrive to the school with. In some cases, they might have chosen behavior that would somehow hide or squelch all of the trauma that they were living in.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
People are saying, what are the behaviors to look for? A lot of youth who have been impacted by drugs and alcohol at one point will be really compliant, very, very appropriate in their behaviors, and within a few seconds may be really angry, acting out, totally out of control in their behaviors, and not really knowing why this is happening to them.
I'll be out there in a second. It explains so much about some of their behavior, and it just gives me this huge signal. And it's not that I'm not compassionate the rest of the time, but it just gives me this huge signal that, oh my goodness, this child's moved 50 times so far in his school history, and that's why there's huge holes in their education. Okay, so it's not that they don't study, it's that they haven't had what all the other kids have had that have been at the same school for 5 years. Big difference.
There was this one teacher that definitely believed in me, the only teacher that believed in me, and he's the one that made the difference. And he said, stop, this isn't going to go on, you're not going to slip through the cracks here. I'm going to help you or you're not going to get any help. And so he helped me.
Tess Thomas is a foster parent.
Boy, this is one of the kids' favorites here.
There are some very, very tuned-in instructors that see a child, that has that empathy for children.
The teachers I've seen to be the most effective have been the ones who haven't just followed prescriptions. They've been the ones who've taken the time to build relationships with kids, get to know who the kids are, and then tailor instruction, tailor discipline, tailor every single day to the needs of those kids. Especially with children in foster care, there may be other issues besides the emotional issues that come with not living with your parents. And so it's always more complicated than a simple prescription can address.
Out-of-home kids may not have had much success with relationships and following instructions.
For a lot of our kids, they really need to have an opportunity to practice new behaviors. They just cannot be told, okay, get in line, be quiet, when it's appropriate, do this, this, or this. They actually need an opportunity to practice those behaviors. Okay, let's practice getting in line. Let's practice walking from here down to the next classroom, whatever it might be.
And these kids need structure.
I think it's real important that they know what's happening in their day. I've always put a daily schedule up, what's going to happen every single day, and I try and keep the kids informed of everything that's happening or anything that's out of the ordinary. They like to know what's going on. They don't want to be surprised. They need order in their life. Most kids do, but especially these kids. They want to know that there's a structure. They want to know that they're safe. At least for their school day, they want to know that they're safe.
For children who've been removed from their parents, activities involving family trees, Mother's Day, or baby pictures can be painful.
Writing autobiographies, that's one of the toughest. Some of our kids, as part of their English literature class, have been asked to write autobiographies. Can you imagine how tough that is for some of our kids to explain the moves, to explain what's happened, to explain about birth family, to explain about the losses, to explain how it is you got to be here at this point in time in an autobiography.
Principal Kathy Profile says that communication among all the adults that work with a child is vital.
I don't know where their foster home is, but right now they live very close to us. School staff who are not the classroom teacher, playground supervisors, office staff, lunchroom workers, and many times all of the staff needs information about the specific concerns that relate to a particular child, so that all of the adults are fairly consistent in the treatment of the child, so that you don't have one adult in the mix who messes it up. All of the adults who are in the child's life need to talk to each other.
If you can get parents to buy into a daily track sheet, that's so helpful to an instructor. If my child is having a bad day before he leaves, I can put that on it and say, they're going to come in wound and wired for sound. You need to be aware of that. You know, same way, if I have a child that's had a tough day at school and nothing seemed to go right, that I can get the track sheet faxed to me, and I have that prior to the child getting home. Those are extra efforts by instructors that are so helpful.
One of the things that really worked for me in high school was this teacher in particular had a tracking system for all his students. He had one class that was at the end of the day. It was called Project Access, and he'd go over study skills, note-taking skills, just organizational skills. And one of the things that he had in that class, it was only actually 25 minutes of just the skills, and the rest of the time was homework, but the skills were very important.
With human beings who are capable of changing and of learning, and that at an early age or even at a later age for youth, this notion of predictability, I think, is pretty slim regarding the outcomes that they're going to realize as far as a social being in our society.
I think that teachers actually understand that the art form of their work is in touching the human soul, and that what they offer is a sort of canvas whereby students get to interact with them, and in so doing paint pictures of their own lives. And as a result, teachers then get an opportunity to actually kind of feel pretty powerful by virtue of the contribution they make to another human life. In the end, that's what we call the art of teaching.
Annie Nominick now attends a community college. She's been admitted to a 4-year university and plans to work toward a PhD in social welfare or psychology.
Seeing all the stuff that I've done, I know my dreams are endless. You know, I can continue and never think about stopping. And I can also take the things that were given to me and give them back. And so I'm definitely hyped for education now.